Hi, Todd. Thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedule at ASTA. And why don't I just let you introduce yourself today?
I'm the CEO of the Independent Professional Seed Association.
Awesome. And so we are sitting here today wanting to talk about competition and marketing challenges, market squeeze you've talked about earlier. Can you just, what's on your mind about competition with independent?
Well, I think we're at a point where the independent seed industry is under a lot of pressure in the competition arena. And, it's a little bit of things that we've got to talk about and kind of set a level playing field. What we mean by that is that we've got some very large multinational corporations that are competing in the same area, that they are acting as vendors or suppliers to independent seed companies through licensing of biotechnology traits and underlying crop genetics. It's been a very good process overall for innovation in agriculture for 3 decades, since the introduction of biotechnology in 1994-5 by Monsanto. But as of late, there's been an enormous amount of pressure in the seed market against these small companies. And, what my concern is that the playing field becomes more level. We've got to be able to see that small companies can compete in an area where they are also competing against companies that they have a supplier relationship with.
We talked a little bit about market squeeze, and also about patents. Let's go into a little bit more detail about patents.
Well, let's talk about market squeeze first. I think it's important to understand that when if we use corn as a for instance, and corn is priced differently in many regions of the United States based on regional pricing. But, we've looked at corn in several different areas and look at what an independent seed company and thereby a farmer actually pays for a bag of corn seed. And interestingly enough, a farmer or an independent seed company in royalties is currently paying 52% of that value of a bag of seed in intellectual property royalties. Seed companies have about 7% of that bag of seed that they'll count as profit or less. It's a very, very tight market for an independent seed company. Because not only are they paying, biotechnology fees and licensing, they're paying genetic fees and licensing. They're paying for seed treatments that they're putting on the bag. They're paying for conditioning for the bag. They're paying for the production, for that crop. So, and then they also pay for their own marketing expenses. So they've got all of that. It's a very tight margin. And what we're seeing is royalty rates going up on both biotechnology traits and genetics, while prices are being held pretty flat, which is just squeezing that 7% even more. Several years ago, we had a strategic meeting with a whole host of our seed companies. And the key question that we asked them was, what keeps you up at night? What is the thing that you worry about your business the most? The number one piece was actually access to good biotechnology traits and genetics. Number two was margin squeeze. So this is not a new piece, but it is reaching a proportion that is dangerous for the industry, where I believe that we've got companies that are under enough pressure, we could see a loss of companies in the marketplace. And to me, that is the loss of economic contributors in rural communities. And that will not be replaced if those companies exit. That's jobs, that's families, that's real value for companies that have been in communities literally for generations. So that's when we're talking about margin squeeze, one of the big pieces. When we look into the patent situation, I think that, it goes without saying that in the United States, we have always prized innovation. Our patent law structure is developed just to do that, reward innovation, and it should be rewarded. Currently, rule of thumb is you file a patent on a new innovation, it's granted you have a 20-year life to take advantage of that as an individual or company to make money off your innovation. And after that period of time, then things need to change, and somebody else is either going to innovate, they're going to build on top of your innovation because the patent's expired, and be able to bring forward the next innovation. Small changes in a product in my opinion, should not be included in innovation and should not extend patents anymore. This has become a way of working in many segments of our society, but particularly I have seen it in the agriculture chemical sector, where companies will take an underlying active ingredient they've had for a number of years and change the molecule and clean it up a bit and make it more concentrated, if you will, in simple terms, and thereby get a new patent life on it. So the pricing stays, at a premium versus a generic product. We also see that in biotechnology. As today we see small tweaks that products that this is going to reduce yield drag, or we're going to add this to give you this much more added herbicide tolerance or this much more insect resistance. Those should not be events that help extend patent life, because I think that, for anybody that has taken a generic drug, they understand the savings that the drug industry undergoes when patents, that the drug consumers use when patents go off of drugs. It's the same thing. Farmers and seed companies have not been able to avail themselves of any of those situations with expiring patents at all since 1995. For almost 30 years, we've sustained, quote, this market value of biotechnology, in particular in corn, soybeans, and cotton, that we need to relook at again. It's time for some changes in the way that patent and innovation is looked at.
What kind of opportunities would that bring if we were able to have generics?
For me personally, I believe the number one opportunity is an economic strengthening of seed companies and farmers. I mean, their cost of production immediately drops. I think the next piece is to have that open up means that now companies can build innovations on top of other innovations, rather than having one company have patented technology locked up and building on top of their own patented technology. Now, all of a sudden, the technology is open and people can go and innovate more on it. You've got to remember, independent seed companies have played a role in innovation in corn for 90 years. Hybridization of corn came about because of a few brilliant plant breeders who were able to get a process that financially helped them, and then hybridization of corn took off and went into the marketplace across 15 years, and independent seed companies drove that innovation. We had a remarkable innovation when Roundup Ready came into the marketplace in 1995, and it lit a fire across the country, and Roundup Ready soybeans became the standard. But, things have changed now, and the market needs to evolve with it.
So what about the EPA? What kind of role do we see them playing in regulation?
I got to tell you, Amy, I think the EPA is a great organization to just find a way to throw rocks at every day. I'd love to say that I have the confidence that the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency actually did something to protect the environment, but I don't believe they do anymore. I think that what they do is, I think they have a group of bureaucrats in there that have been in place for over 30 years that absolutely stifle innovation, and by and large, they give too much of an appearance of collusion with big companies rather than actually taking care of small stakeholders. And I'll be very specific. There's a group inside EPA that has been in place with biotechnology, 2 people for 30 years that make the majority of decisions about what's right and what's wrong on the EPA framework. They use a advisory group called the Agriculture Biotechnology Stewardship Technical Committee, or ABSTAC, as their sounding board. This committee was originally formed by EPA specifically to look at stewardship qualifications when biotechnology products had refuge qualifications. Well, in the intervening years, corn now has refuge in a bag that is mandated compliance. Cotton has a natural refuge, which means you can plant biotech cotton wall to wall. The real need for this group has been bypassed, but yet they still have confidential discussions with the EPA that as of today, you cannot use the Freedom of Information Act to get any information out of it. I find that appalling. I find that appalling that our government agencies can meet with competition and companies that compete with each other, and the information cannot be made public. It's almost conspiratorial, but it's a fact. And the Agriculture Biotechnology Stewardship Technical Committee has 4 members: Syngenta, Bayer, Corteva, BASF. I certainly wouldn't want to accuse any of our good multinational companies of doing anything wrong, but the appearance that does, and it's driven not by those companies, but by the EPA, is just bad. It's bad for the industry. I've made a proposal to the Senate Ag Committee, and I've called on my Senator John Bozeman, who's the ranking member on Senate Ag, to actually go forward and mandate that the EPA revise the ABSTC to include 4 organizations: IPSA, ASTA, National Cotton Council, and National Corn Growers. If they were to do that, then all of a sudden, every seed company that buys a biotechnology product and licenses it, every farmer that a biotechnology product regulated by EPA, which is just corn, cotton, would have a place at the table. There would be public information available. Transparency, we are taught, and the USDA just told us this recently, that transparency is a good thing because they want to see more transparency about hybrid identification. I want to see more transparency of the EPA in these discussions with ABSTC. What's going on today is wrong.
So in your role at IPSA, you're trying to fill what you see as a very important seat at that table.
It's not about IPSA. It's really about the seed companies having a voice, and it's about the farmers having a voice. So that's what I want to do, is if we could get ABSTC redesigned in a manner that took in all the stakeholders and ensured that everything that was happening from the EPA was above board, I think that would be a great victory for agriculture.
I agree with you. Thank you so much for sitting down with us and telling us what's on your mind. And
thank you.
We will look forward to talking to you in the future about other things.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you so much.